Greetings, distinguished judges. Salutations to the men of Alpha Phi Alpha, and best regards to my fellow brother competitors. I extend my greetings. I am Justice J. Hill, Spring 2020 initiate into the Alpha Eta chapter. Allow me to share my thoughts on the theme, political corruption, systemic racism, and COVID-19. What role can Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated play in these challenging times? I've always thought that 2020 vision was a term associated with perfection. The term is used to express normal visual acuity, which is the clarity of how sharp your vision is measured at a distance of 20 feet. As we enter the year of 2020, it'll be recorded as far from normal as anything could be. 2020 will be the year of COVID and corruption. Who would have believed that a party of elected officials would go so far that lying and cheating to reach a goal would be the norm and standard operating procedures? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. The United States of America is a contradiction. Its founding principles embrace the ideals of freedom and equality, but it is a nation built on the systematic exclusion and suppression of communities of color. Over this past year, we all saw with clear vision how our nation struggles to prohibit the most repugnant forms of discrimination, exclusion, and suppression, which all focus on entrenched structural racism. We all saw how the distorted ways of power and influence subjugated people of color to the law. The events of this past summer surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement remind us that our country's legal constructs are not some relics of the antebellum or Jim Crow past, but rather remain part of the fabric of the American legal and political system. COVID 2020 has revealed the long-standing systematic health and social inequalities of minority groups, most prominently African Americans, who are the increased population, getting sick and dying of COVID-19. Healthcare access, poverty, lack of resources, lack of education have always influenced the quality of life outcomes and risks for people of color for far too long. Barriers must be removed so everyone has the fair opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Brother Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words are classic. Injustice and corruption will never be transformed by keeping them hidden, but only by bringing them into the light and confronting them with the power of love. Dr. King further postulates in his book, Why We Can't Wait. 300 years of humiliation, abuse, and deprivation cannot be expected to find a voice in a whisper. A Phi A must raise our thunderous voice in our mighty arm. We got to take the same roadmap that Duke Ellington composed in 1939. We got to take the A train. The Alpha train must keep coming, and it gotta keep on pushing. As we reflect on the troubles of the world, the numerous problems of today and tomorrow, one must ask, where is Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated? What is our responsibility to right the wrongs? I am drawn to the directives that we were given by Jewel Ferdinand Tandy in December 1937 when he said, I went through hell founding this organization, and I want something done about these problems. Think of it. We have over 120 chapters, and I ask, what are we doing? We must fight till hell freezes over, and then fight on the ice. The state of the world requires that the light of Alpha be held higher and shine brighter now more than ever. A corrupt leader was leading us only because there were corrupted people that voted for him. We need only to look to the most recent destruction of voter suppression in the state of Georgia that changed the political direction of Congress and placed our dear brother, Reverend Raphael Warnock, as the first African-American senator to represent Georgia, to understand the power and depth of voter registration and voter awareness. A Voteless People programming must take on new platforms and directions within the fraternity and our service work to make certain that we never return to the not so great America that we live for our last 4 years. We must be committed to removing the hopelessness that many of our brothers and sisters have found themselves confined to. A, the school of the better making of men, must be in the forefront in creating leaders that will not only bail out banks and Fortune 500 companies, but also families from losing their homes. We must demand that leaders will fund schools, not limit spending on education, and allow libraries to close. America is deeply divided with the deeply entrenched, polarized positions around race, religion, politics, and social economic class. One can conclude these are the results of well-meaning people doing nothing. The role of Alpha is to become the great equalizer. We must become the agitators of change. George Orwell is quoted as saying, "The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those that speak it." The role of the fraternity is to be the truth tellers. A Phi A must return to the principles and commitments of our cherished jewels and address the false narratives. We must rewrite the narratives. Brothers, we can no longer avoid the critical conversations and advocacy needed to address matters of iniquity and civility. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, our role is and has always been to engage in manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind that serve all and transcend all. As we restore our nation to its greatness, Alpha must take our rightful place at the head of the table. If we as a national organization or a local chapter is not at the table when the items of policy and procedures are being developed, we will find ourselves as discontinued appetizers on the menu. Our role is to continue to march onward and upward and uphold the light to ensure that our children and their children have a more perfect union. Alpha Phi Alpha, I ask you, what will be our ultimate measure? We must march on. Thank you.